Sometimes you need to get knocked down before you can really figure out what your fight is and how you need to fight it. Sometimes you need to feel the pain and sting of defeat to activate the real passion and purpose that God predestined inside of you. God says in Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Hear me well on this day. This day when you have reached the hilltop and you are deciding on next jobs, next steps, careers, further education. You would rather find purpose than a job or a career. Purpose crosses disciplines. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. Whatever you choose for a career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. When God has something for you, it doesn't matter who stands against it. If it's meant for you, God will move someone that's holding you back away from a door and put someone there who will open it for you. I don't know what your future is, but if you're willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory, then you will not regret it. Press on with pride and press on with purpose and appreciate what God has brought you through.
Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Hey y'all, it's your man Lloyd Spence. And look, you can find all of the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA and NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, fights, and even next season's NFL futures, all at BetOnline. Because BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. So, it's very easy. It's very, very easy. All you have to do is go to the website today and use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just go to BetOnline. It's where the game starts.
Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Yeah. Can I make you move now? Yes, I can. So you can get this move in a bag of a can. I can make it round the world when it holds in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. I said popcorn make you smile. Ah. 250 flavors. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. 250 flavors. Popcorn World. The Popcorn World. 250 flavors. What's that saying? Breaking down the rumor and smelling out. Speaking for the people who must go around. Taking truth to power. The whisper and the shout. We're talking noise. Oh yeah. Talking noise. Hey yeah. Say it again. Say we're talking noise. Yeah. Talking noise. Really don't have time to fool around. Mama noise keeps us under. When truth divine, the sound that you hear is the sound of success. We're talking noise. Oh yeah, talking noise. Yeah, picking up all the sound. We're talking noise. Oh yeah, yeah. Talking noise. Say it again. We're talking noise. Welcome to Talkin NOIZ, the daily podcast that brings you up to speed and keeps you informed about real issues affecting real people. With your host, Mr. Talkin NOIZ himself, Lloyd Spence. His beautiful wife, Mrs. NOIZ, Kenyatta Spence. The ever-informed Brother NOIZ, Alan Brown. And yours cordially, Uncle NOIZ, Shake Anderson. Come on in and join us as we reveal and opine today's most pressing issues. Real truth while having real fun. Talkin NOIZ is in your house right now. So sit back and enjoy Talkin NOIZ.
Not getting hassled, not getting hustled.
Dr. T, Welsh is here.
Making the way we get down. Good times.
This is some blue-white affair.
Good times. Good times.
Oh, you're in the mood.
Good times.
Dr. Talkin.
Hey, we're lucky we got 'em.
And you can bring your kids.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo!
And it's Women Wednesday, which means we have a special guest, which means that the show just got a lot bluer and a lot whiter and a lot better because Dr. Tia Welsh is here. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up. Woo-hoo! Who's in the building?
Good morning, everyone. How are you? It's been a minute.
I see what you do. Look, I see what you're doing.
I got to keep them guessing.
And you got the office. I see the office has been cultivated. I see what's happening.
Yes.
Shout out to Jersey.
Right. How you doing, Soron?
I'm doing fabulously. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. So glad to have you today. What's going on in New Jersey?
It's been hot.
You say it's
Real
been
hot.
hot? Or
What
it's
was
hot? You say it's been hot?
It's been hot.
Oh,
hot.
in Jersey?
Oh yeah. Yesterday it was 98 degrees. Can you believe it?
Oh, y'all putting up Texas like numbers.
Yeah,
Okay.
but today it's probably in the 60s.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, y'all back to normal now. Huh?
Back to normal.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Well, it's great to see you.
It is.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
So
Glad to
glad.
have you.
I love showing up for you guys. I love showing up.
Well,
Well, thank
I
you.
don't know how to take that except to be flattered.
Indeed. Thank you
Well,
so much.
I'm flattered to be asked to come back time and again. So
Oh, this is a love fest. I tell you.
It is. It absolutely is.
Yeah, I tell you, this is so.
I mean, she's so special. I'm honored.
no, thank
So
you.
honored. But I'm also honored to call her my soror. So
Hello.
there's that.
Z5 all day.
Facts. So I wanted to ask you. So is there anything going on in your expertise of OB/GYN that is something that's not been going on? Updated. It's something that in the past we did. We didn't know about, but now it's been is something new. Like for women, so much. I talked to my daughter about like with OB/GYN exams and stuff that is night and day compared to when I was her age and what she's going through now. Now back then they used to use that. I'm so dating myself. Use the steel speculums.
Oh, we still have those.
You don't use the.
We still have those. They're actually better for the environment than throwing out the little plastic ones, to be honest. For the environment. So
But I mean, how do they? Okay, I often wondered, and it never came to me until, like I said, till you have children, do you start to say, I wonder how they kept those steel ones clean. How did they sterilize?
It's a sterilization process, just like any other surgery. We use the same instruments over and over after they're sterilized, so it's better for the environment. Most women would probably prefer the plastic ones, but the metal ones work just as well. And again, you can use them over and over instead of throwing bags and bags of plastic out in the trash. So nothing new here, nothing new.
Okay. I was like, and then the other thing about, them setting, it used to be for gynecological exams, if I'm getting it right, or they used to call it just women's
Like pap
yearly.
test. Yes. Annual.
Yeah, just your annual. So they push back the age group to use the speculums and stuff.
So let me explain that, because
Okay.
a lot of physicians won't explain it well, and
Okay.
people get confused.
Okay.
When you have a pelvic exam, a lot of people associate pelvic exam and pap test, and they're
Okay.
two different things.
Oh,
A pelvic exam is an exam checking a woman's body parts, whether it's her vagina, her ovaries, and all of that. A pap test is a specific test that detects cancer in the cervix.
okay.
Just because you're getting a pelvic exam doesn't mean you're getting a pap test.
Oh,
So for so long, women would have complaints and go to the emergency room and have a pelvic exam and say, well, I had a pap test in the emergency room. They
Oh.
never do any preventative services in the emergency room. It's for emergency care. So you're
Okay.
not getting a colonoscopy, you're not getting a mammogram, and you're certainly not getting a pap test in anybody's emergency room.
Okay.
For emergencies, and those are preventative services. So the two don't have anything to do with one another. The guidelines have changed, where pap tests were done every year. No one needs a pap test every year unless they've had an abnormal pap. So that doesn't mean that they don't go to the gynecologist and they don't get a pelvic exam. They still have to do that. They're just not getting the test. But for so long, people equated the pelvic exam and the pap test as one thing. So yes.
I did. I definitely equated it as one thing. I wouldn't have known the
So a
difference.
pap
at
test
all.
does not start until age 21. And before it was a pap test started at least 3 years after the age of sexual intercourse. So
Wow.
whether that meant that you were 20, you were 18, you would get a pap test.
Gotcha.
But now we don't do a pap test looking for cervical cancer until the age of 21. That
Gotcha.
doesn't mean that if you're sexually active that you won't need a pelvic exam.
What was the? I don't know if you can answer that, but what would be the reason why they pushed back the pelvic exam to like 21 instead of like they were doing back in my when I was an adolescent, started at like 15 or 16. I've been scarred. I'm traumatized.
Clearly.
The thought that
there's your answer. Not to scar and traumatize young females, especially if you're not sexually active. Then just being comfortable with a physician in the room and knowing your different body parts is the main goal. At 16, at 17. At 18, if you're sexually active, yes, you can get a pelvic exam, not necessarily the pap test. And our pap tests have revolutionized since, long ago, where they wiped it on a slide and you looked under a microscope. Now they're liquid based, number one. And number two, we're testing for HPV. So we're looking at the cells of the cervix and we're looking for the virus that causes cervical cancer. And knowing that this virus and this cancer is very slow growing and very early on is something that the body, you'll hear, can heal itself from. There's no need to do it any earlier than 21.
Wait a minute.
Virus can be cleared early on. I don't like to use the word clear.
Okay.
I like to say that the HPV virus is somewhat like herpes.
Okay.
There's times that it is very active in your cells and you'll see it on your pap test, and there's times that you won't see it. And just having it at age 21 and going to do surgery and all of those things, very traumatic, not necessary, because you might not ever see it again.
Oh, wow.
What?
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Yes.
Wow.
And this is why we encourage young girls and young men, young boys, to get the HPV vaccine. Because then by the time they are sexually active, one, you're decreasing your chance of getting this virus that causes cervical cancer. And then we don't have to worry about these abnormal pap tests that we do get.
Is the HPV vaccine a one-off, or is it something you're going to have to do all the time?
One, it is 3 different doses. sort of like what we did for the, this other virus.
Right.
You get it once, you get it another time 2 months later, and then 4 months after that.
And there seems to be no long-term effects other than just you won't be getting cervical cancer. Right. Which is a nice
positive effects. Positive.
Right. Okay. That's it.
Dr. Welsh, is the HPV virus hereditary?
No.
Or is it?
No, it is not hereditary, but it can be passed. HPV virus is not only associated with cervical cancer, but also associated with genital warts. And if your mom has genital warts, large genital warts in the birth canal, can that be transferred to the neonate coming and passing through the birth canal? Yes, it can. And I don't know if you ever heard when Michael Douglas was getting a divorce, I forgot his ex-wife's name, but Michael Douglas had throat cancer, and he accused his ex-wife of giving him throat cancer because she had HPV and oral sex. And I thought it was the most disgusting thing that a man could ever say. But he accused her of his throat cancer, saying it was HPV related.
Is that
right there?
Possible?
Is it possible? There's a chance. It's not a high chance, but
okay.
We don't want men out there doing what they're doing.
Hey, man. I speak for all men and women to say.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. I'm representing today. You got me. I'm just representing. Wow. Okay. I want to pivot to something.
Oh.
If you don't mind, Mama Noise, I want to pivot to something that I just was brought aware to. And I'm very curious to see what the very open and transparent Dr. Welsh is going to say about
that. Would be me.
Because this is actually a kind of a big shift. So Dr. Welsh thought in her mind next April she was going to be going to New Orleans for the National OBGYN conference, and they canceled it, or at least they canceled it in New Orleans, citing Louisiana's abortion stance. And they were like, nah, we ain't coming, which the people of New Orleans were, needless to say, livid about, because, New Orleans' number one revenue base is people coming to New Orleans to eat a beignet.
Yeah,
so they will come on those off seasons that aren't Mardi Gras or the football games or whatever, or the Essence Fest or whatever. That's a big problem to the economy. Mm-hmm. So the National OBGYN conference, as Dr. Welsh will probably tell you, is a big deal. You got a lot of doctors with a lot of money, ready to spend some money, right? Mm-hmm. They've decided they're not doing it. I'd love to hear your opinion as to, do you agree with the stance or not? And also, where do you think we are in the current landscape of this decision?
That is a loaded question.
I mean, I told you I was pivoting. I did warn you.
Wow. I do commend our governing body, which would be a BOG, an ACOG, which is the Association for the College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, for making a stance. I don't believe government has any right to tell a woman how to choose.
As we do as well. We stand with you in that. So we had a big show about it as well.
I think they did a very good thing. These are states that have death penalties. I don't want to get into all of that, but we need to protect the health and the safety of women in this country. And we're just going to go back to where we were. Back alleys, coat hangers, people trying to do things on the black market. And it's not necessary. You can have your own beliefs, but to totally say, no matter if it's rape, if it's incest, you can't make blanket statements that abortion is all bad. When women have an incomplete pregnancy, let's say a pregnancy that starts and doesn't finish, It is called an abortion that we must do to evacuate this abnormal pregnancy
Right.
for the health of the mother. There are pregnancies that actually start and form cancer. Okay. And sometimes that's not known until about 4 months. That is called a termination or abortion to evacuate those cells. So to have these policies that say no abortion at 4 weeks, at 5 weeks before a woman actually knows that they're pregnant is absolutely ridiculous when we know that some pregnancies can cause death to the mom.
And that's why I knew you'd be the perfect person to ask this question to, because that has been my argument since this thing, since I, as a young child or a high school student, whatever, formulated my view on it. I've always said nobody wants to see abortion. Nobody's out here saying, man, what would be real cool today? That's not how we naturally think. But at the same time, there has to be a certain logic, if I can use that word, openness and thoughtfulness to this cause that, quite honestly, I don't think involves me in that regard. Like, there are parts of this that don't involve me. Like, I do understand men wanting to say, well, don't I get some say-so? I get that. I do understand that. But what I don't get is us wanting to police it across the board when we don't even understand it. That's the whole issue that I'm having. Like, you don't understand what you're talking about. It's murder. It is murder. You don't know. That's not, I get what you think you're saying, but you don't know what the hell you're saying. That's my point.
There's pregnancies that don't implant in the uterus. They can implant in the tube. They can implant in the cervix. Again, am I not supposed to perform those procedures for the health and safety and the life of the mom? We know that birth control is not 100%. We know this. So when we make blanket statements, what are we doing for that 14-year-old who will have psychological issues for the rest of her life? And how are we as a country going to support her? Because the same people don't want, systems in place to help people that are struggling, that can't take care of these children. What are we doing to put these things in place? You're having unwanted children, but you don't have the systems in place. So you want to take away those systems, whether it's, welfare, whether it's, child medical insurance, or what have you. These social systems, they want to take away. So you can't take away everything and leave them in the lurch. I'll just say that. And for our college to stand up and say, no, we don't approve, I feel very strongly about. And I feel it's not all just men, because there's women behind those signs as well. But when you look at this country, and I know you wanted to get into it a little bit, when you look at this country and you're in menopause and you're having painful sex, just to get something to help you as a woman, you're paying $200, $300 for prescriptions, where if a man wants to have sex, they're paying $2 for a blue pill. Let's look at the country here.
Yeah.
Come through.
Wow. Can I since we're in the loaded question arena, we might as well stay here for just a second.
Oh, wow.
Just for just a second longer, then we'll get to the blue pills and all that stuff. But should Black America be louder on this issue than we are? Because this issue that we're talking about really affects us tremendously. Like, it's a big deal in our community. So should we be louder, like from a media perspective, from a religious perspective, from all the way across the board? Should we be louder in our understanding and also in our vocalness to protect Black women in this area?
I think this goes far beyond race, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. This is a woman thing. It's not even a racial thing. And I'm not sure that, I know a large majority of us live in inner cities or states that are trying to protect those rights, whether it's, the blue states up north, big states like California. Right. Trying to protect those rights of women. And I think this goes, I don't want to say this is an us situation right now. This is a woman situation. So whether it's Black women, white women, Asian women, all types of women come in for terminations and abortions believe that. Catholics and Christians and Protestants and Jews. It goes across religious lines as well.
Not the Christians. The Christians are coming in too.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And you know what? When I did my master's in public health and looking at this situation, it was your Bible Belt states that had a high majority of teen pregnancy. These are very Christian, states that they, these politicians base their careers off of Christian values, but sex before marriage isn't what's taught in the church of any church.
Right.
But then they won't give the HPV vaccine. They won't talk about birth control, but then they have a high teenage pregnancy rate. And I can tell you the states up north have a decreased the country as a whole has a decreased teenage pregnancy rate. But there's a higher rate of terminations in the north. I can tell you that.
See, that's why I say I know you're the perfect person to ask these questions. Bringing balance to the conversation. I love it. Go ahead, Mama Doris. I'm off my soapbox.
I'm listening to what Dr. Welsh is saying, and now my mind is just swirling with, because I don't want to say the agenda, but when it's pushed out there that abortion, it's usually pushed in one direction where you don't have any, like there's no left, there's no right, there's nothing else. It's just the main thing you're pushing out front. Like somebody who just had sex and just wants to terminate a pregnancy. That's what's kind of pushed to the forefront instead of what Dr. Welsh just said, all these other things that could possibly be the reason. Like one of my friends, her friend had like a stillborn. Well, I mean, that's, it's that. And then somebody else, there were other, like the factors. She said it much more eloquent than I could, is all the different factors.
And to your point, Mama Noise, there is no implied logic in the conversation right now. It's just extremes. And that's why I guess that's one of the reasons why I asked the question about our responsibility of making it make sense, because right now we're picking these extreme sides and calling it a discussion. And it's not. That's not a discussion when everything is one side pushed right or one side pushed left. A discussion is what Dr. Welsh just had. And I think if more people, the majority of people, were to hear experts like Dr. Welsh talk about this and say, here's the reason why you can't just push to one side. Here's the reason why we got to have a measured conversation to discuss this. Then I think we could make some progress in how it all unfolds.
But we're not hearing from the experts like Dr. Welsh. The people that we're hearing saying the stuff are not experts.
No, they're not. That's exactly
because
right.
they will portray the picture of the Black woman who has 4 kids, who goes in to have that termination, and maybe she had a termination before. They won't show, the white woman who works hard, who, messed up on her birth control, and her husband is not there. It'll always be the single woman, and it's not always the case. Birth control, like I said, fails. Are they going to make Plan B, $2 cheaper in the pharmacy? It's behind the pharmacist. You have to ask for it. Sometimes it's embarrassing, and it's not a cheap medication. Like I said, if a man wants to have sex, he buys a pill for $2. If I messed up on my birth control, if your condom falls off, then I have to pay almost $40, $50 for a Plan B.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Oh, now that's enlightening. I didn't know anything about the cost of the Plan B. I knew it exists, but I didn't know. And it seems like we're going back in prehistoric times. When I go back to my adolescence, let's just say, is that, at that time, condoms could only be purchased when you went to the back of the store of the pharmacy, and you had to ask the pharmacist, and then they give it to you in a brown bag. Okay, you want to know, there was no family planning aisle.
No, there wasn't.
At the pharmacies there are now, there's all these family planning aisles with some of them with plexiglass and stuff that you got to have somebody come out with a key and unlock and do all of this, extra stuff. But now you're saying even in order to get, well, now I can understand a sort of